The Saints might be the most uninteresting team in the NFL heading into next season. They probably aren't going to be really bad, but they definitely won't be really good. They'll likely just end up somewhere in the middle. That's really been the theme with this team in the 2 seasons under head coach Dennis Allen. New Orleans went 7-10 in 2022 and just went 9-8 last season. The Saints haven't made the playoffs since 2020, the season Drew Brees retired after. They just haven't been able to figure life out post Brees and Sean Payton. It's not a great roster, and I'd expect this season to be more mediocrity too. Aside from the Saints being a boring middle-of-the-pack 500 team, the offense is also boring and honestly not very good. The Saints starting quarterback is again going to be Derek Carr. He signed that big 4-year, $150 million contract last offseason and was actually pretty good. Carr threw for 25 touchdowns to only 8 interceptions. It was his best touchdown to interception ratio since 2016. That was all the way back when he led the Raiders to a 12-3 season, but fractured his fibula in week 16, ending any chance of an MVP run. Carr was on the Raiders for 9 years, so it's still a little odd seeing him in a Saints uniform. Carr can be a solid quarterback, but he's not very exciting. New Orleans has now taken a quarterback day 3 of the draft for 2 straight years. Last year, it was Jake Haener in the 4th round, and this year, the Saints took Spencer Rattler in the 5th. He was the #1 quarterback recruit in the 2019 class. His best season in college was in 2020 when he had 28 touchdowns and 7 interceptions as a redshirt freshman. As we all know, he then lost his starting job the next season to Caleb Williams and went on to spend the last 2 seasons at South Carolina. Rattler was literally the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy in 2021, and he was even once a highly thought of NFL prospect. But for now, it's Derek Carr's offense, and he has a good wide receiver 1, Chris Olave. He's had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons to start his career. He improved on his rookie year in 2023 with 87 receptions for 1,123 yards and 5 touchdowns. Wide receiver 2 in NOLA is another third-year guy, Rashid Shaheed. While Olave was a big-time first-round pick out of Ohio State, Rashid Shaheed was an undrafted free agent from Weber State. He was a 4-time All-American kick returner in college, and last season, he was a first-team All-Pro returner. Shaheed has made more of an impact than only on returns, though. He had 488 receiving yards as a rookie and just had 719 yards and 5 touchdowns off of 46 catches. There isn't necessarily a clear 3 behind Olave and Shaheed. It's really just 3 guys who have been okay: Cedric Wilson Jr., Equanimous St. Brown, and A.T. Perry. Juwan Johnson is also there and should have a prominent role on the offense too. He's 2 seasons removed from a 500-yard season with 7 touchdowns. Taysom Hill is still in NOLA, and he's going into his 8th season, pretty much fitting in wherever on the offense the Saints feel like putting him. Alvin Kamara is also going into year 8 too, all with New Orleans. He's coming off of his worst season in the pros. He played in 13 games and had 694 rushing yards, both career lows. But Kamara was still a major threat in the passing game too, with 466 yards. He's long been one of the top dual threat running backs in the league, so I wouldn't be too worried about him. His backup is Jamal Williams, who is a super fun personality. He just had 306 yards and only 1 touchdown, which is a bit of a change up considering he was just fresh off of a 17 touchdown season in Detroit. Now, outside of the quarterback and specialty positions, the Saints do have a pretty serious problem on offense: the line. They tried to fix it a bit at the draft, using the 14th overall pick on Taliza Fuaga. I'm so sorry if I butchered that name, everyone seems to say it differently. He was a 2-year starter at Oregon State and is fresh off of a first-team All-American season. The other first-round pick on the line is Trevor Penning, who has struggled. Ideally, the Saints' right tackle would be Ryan Ramczyk, but he just had an off-season procedure, and it kind of feels like his retirement could be soon. At guard, Nick Saldiveri was a 4th-rounder last season. He actually played at ODU, so shout out to the 757. Then 2020 first-round pick Cesar Ruiz is on a 4-year, $44 million contract. Finally, Eric McCoy was a Saints 2nd-rounder in 2019. New Orleans has put capital into the line. They're clearly trying to fix it, but it just hasn't paid off, at least not yet. It's hard to expect too much from Clint Kubiak in year 1 as the Saints offensive coordinator. He was the Vikings OC in 2021 and was just the 49ers passing game coordinator coordinator last season. Now, the offense may not be great, but the defense, on the other hand, is much better. It's a top half of the league unit for sure. The Saints secondary is the first thing that pops out on the defense. New Orleans could really use a healthy Marshawn Lattimore. He was once a top cornerback in the league, but has only played in 17 games over the past 2 seasons. Lattimore was great in his first 5 seasons in the league. He has 15 interceptions and 300 solo tackles in his career. Paulson Adebo will be opposite Lattimore. He had 60 solo tackles and 4 interceptions last season, his 3rd season in the NFL. New Orleans did also draft walking billboard Kool-Aid McKinstry in the 2nd round. He's coming off of a first-team All-American season at Alabama. At safety, Tyrann Mathieu is still in New Orleans. He's entering year 12 in the pros, his 3rd with the Saints. He's played in all 17 games in each of the past 2 seasons and has 7 interceptions and 104 solo tackles during the span. 2023 5th rounder Jordan Howden is the other expected starting safety. The Saints have a couple of good experienced linebackers. Demario Davis is going into his 13th season in the league and 7th in New Orleans. He's been an all-pro for the past 5 years and is a clear leader on the defense. Willie Gay just signed a 1-year deal with the Saints in March. He played in 57 games for the Chiefs over 4 seasons and just won back-to-back Super Bowls. Then Pete Werner, a 2021 2nd rounder, is the other expected starting linebacker. No shock here, Cameron Jordan is still on the Saints defensive line. He's been there since I was in the 6th grade, which was, let me count, 13 years ago. He's a Saints great now, no question. He has 117.5 career sacks and 682 tackles. Carl Granderson is the defensive end on the other side of Jordan, coming off of an 8.5 sack season in 2023. He has at least 5 sacks in 3 of his 5 seasons in the pros. Chase Young is also an interesting name the Saints signed to a 1-year deal, but he will miss some of training camp because of a neck injury. Then Nathan Shepard and Kalen Saunders are expected to start at defensive tackle. Both just played their first season on the Saints in 2023. Brian Brussey is still there waiting his turn after the Saints drafted him in the 1st round last year. The defense is definitely the stronger side of the ball for the Saints. If by some miracle New Orleans is really good, it's probably going to be because of them. I hate to say it, but I don't foresee that happening though. Now, the Saints don't have a very tough schedule this season. It's actually tied with the Falcons for the easiest in the league. Their opponent's winning percentage last season was roughly about 45%. New Orleans does have 3 primetime games: at Kansas City on Monday Night Football in Week 5, versus Denver on Thursday Night Football in Week 7, and at Green Bay on Monday Night Football in Week 16. The Broncos matchup just feels like it's going to be the biggest of the season. The return of Sean Payton to New Orleans for the first time since he stepped away in 2021. Now, he's the head coach of the Broncos. That game will have no shortage of drama around it. The Saints do start the regular season at home against the Panthers in Week 1. New Orleans obviously plays the Panthers, Falcons, and Buccaneers 3 times. But the Saints also play the entire NFC East: Cowboys, Eagles, Giants, Commanders, and the AFC West: Chiefs, Broncos, Chargers, and Raiders. The other 3 teams on the schedule are 2023 2nd-place division finishers: Browns, Rams, and Packers. I really don't expect too much from the Saints this season. I think the NFC South has only gotten better, especially with Kirk Cousins in Atlanta. It could be a rough season for the Saints. I think they go 6-11 and get swept by both the Falcons and Buccaneers, but sweep the Panthers for a 2-4 division record. They could for sure win more, but I don't have enough confidence in this team to predict otherwise. Jackson is mostly on the same page with me here. He thinks the Saints win 4 of 6 in the division though, but also has them finishing 6-11 overall. The Saints win total over-under is 7.5, so not even Vegas is super high on the Saints, but I guess we are a little lower on them. The Saints used to be a perennial playoff team, but that hasn't really been the case since Drew Brees and Sean Payton stepped away. It's going to take a while for New Orleans to return to relevancy, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it's not going to happen this season.